Sorry about the delay. I call to order the Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 meeting of the Landmarks Commission. We will start with the roll. Ron, absent. Alderman Stoyer, absent. Ian.
Yeah.
Susan. I can see her. David.
Present.
And Rebecca.
Here.
Great. The first item is the approval of tonight's agenda. I would make a motion to revise the agenda. I would like to remove item E1, election of officers. We don't have the full set of commissioners here tonight, and I would rather not do that until all of us are present. So I would make a motion to remove that item.
Second.
All in favor? I'll go by roll. Ian?
Yep.
Susan?
I just came into the meeting, so if I need to.
Thanks, Mark.
We're voting on a motion right now, Mark. Rebecca?
Yes.
David?
I'd just like to point out only one person is missing at present. It may be difficult to get everybody to address this. In absence of altering your motion, though, I will vote yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. And then, Mark, the motion was to eliminate item E1 from tonight's agenda, which is election of new officers for the commission.
Oh, to eliminate it? What was the reason? Just
As Ron's not here, and if he's going to be nominated for an officer position, I feel he should
okay.
be here.
All right. I'll vote for that.
Okay, motion carries. And then based on that, I think I need a new motion for the approval of the revised agenda.
So I'll move.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item D on tonight's agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the July 14th, 2021 Landmarks Commission meeting. Those minutes were distributed following the meeting. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on those minutes? Hearing none, I'd make for a motion to approve.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. On to item E, regular business. The first item in regular business then is certificate of appropriateness 21-19, consideration with possible action on a design review for a rear building addition located at 914 South Quincy Street. Jason, would you like to brief us on the staff review of this item?
Love to. We have something. Am I driving the bus or?
You're driving. Well, I'm driving the
Okay,
bus.
you drive. Excellent. So we have an application for a exterior addition or kitchen. Here on the left, you see two pictures of the house. At least I think we do. And the addition is kind of on the rear side of the house. Is there a way to make it the
Me.
pretty view?
Oh, like full view?
Yeah,
Sure.
or slideshow view thing.
There you go.
So the addition is on the northern facade of the house, the northern elevation, kind of tucked in behind these trees that you see. So if we go to the next slide, on the left, And what I presume is blue or periwinkle maybe is the existing wall of the house in the architectural plans. The orange is what they're proposing as an addition on the rear. In the two marked up photographs, you see basically what that impact is. Roughly 3 feet wide by, I forget, is it 6 or 7 feet long? And they'll be reusing one of the exterior windows, the rear-facing window, and bumping that out along the wall. You'll see at the bottom right, it says reuse this window here. So relatively small impact. If we skip to the next slide, I think it says that I recommend approval of the addition as proposed. I note that the addition is relatively small, hidden from view, and has a minimal impact on the integrity of the house. Basically, no impact on the integrity of the district.
I have no questions. I would make a motion to approve.
In second.
Further discussion, we've got a motion to approve. Anybody else have anything they would like to discuss? Questions? Hearing none, I will call for a roll call vote on this. Alderman Stoyer,
Aye, yes.
Ian,
Yes.
Susan. I'll take that as a yes.
You're muted.
Yeah, there. I somehow keep getting muted. Yes.
David,
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
I also vote yes, so motion carries unanimously. We are on to item 2, regular business, which is Certificate of Appropriateness 21-20, consideration with possible action on a design review for 2 murals located in the Broadway Dausman Historic District, located at 412 Dausman and 235 North Broadway. Jason.
So there are 2 walls. The first wall you see here, it's behind 235 North Broadway. We're referencing this cinder block utility wall. You can see it in the photograph on the left side. On the right side, I have a Google view illustrating with yellow arrow where that wall is. To cut to the last page of the book, the recommendation is to approve a mural on this wall with no restrictions or requirements. This wall does not have any historic fabric, doesn't contribute to the integrity of the district. As I said earlier, you could shoot painted cannonballs at it and that would be fine. The next wall is the one that I have to really geek out on and will lead to maybe a long meeting. Here are 2 pictures of the wall in question. Again, with a Google view, I'm showing you with an arrow roughly where that is. It's an alley off of Dausman along the, whichever wall that is it Redfish? Yes?
Yep.
Awesome. Used to be Bag Lady, but it's not. So in the photographs, you can see the wall in question. It's been painted before, but there's a lot to say about this. I think we can go to the next slide, if I remember correctly. So we've had, just to give you an idea how pretty it could look, these were 2 proposals. Kind of doing a bait and switch here. I got you all excited about it, but I'm going to tell you why we shouldn't do this. So moving on to the next slide. A little bit of background here, just so we're all on the same page. City received the inquiry on this on August 6th. City received the COA application on August 9th. On August 10th, the COA application was evaluated. Landmarks Commission staff provided feedback, including no pressure washing and confining the paint to areas that were previously painted. The next day, on the 11th, we were notified that it had been pressure washed, and there was a note that they were looking at replacing 20 to 30 bricks with salvaged material. None of that salvaged material was part of the COA application. On the 16th, I asked some questions, noting that the pressure washing done was illegal per state statute. That's beyond our control, that's a state law. I requested information on what details were used here in the pressure washing, like what's the rated PSI, the nozzle type, that kind of stuff. Since replacement bricks were mentioned, I asked for a photo or sketch showing what bricks are going to be replaced, some details on the replacement material, details on the mortar type, a plan for how to properly remove the remaining loose and peeling paint, because there's quite a bit still there, and a plan to determine the moisture content of the brick now that it had been pressure washed, and details on the primer and paint to be used, particularly with an eye towards the vapor permeability. Next slide, a little more of the show and tell here. Today we received information on the paint and primer, which is all good. Received some information on a plan to continue to scrape the loose paint from this, which is good. Someone suggested using a pressure washer again, which is very bad. The proposal to replace 20 to 30 bricks got whittled down to replace 5 or 6 bricks, but now in the last iteration it's to replace 0 bricks. So of the information requested, number 1, details on the pressure washing that was done. I've gotten no reply. I've received no reply. Number 2, details on what bricks are going to be replaced. The latest suggestion is that no bricks are replaced, so the request has been withdrawn. Number 3, the request is withdrawn because no replacement bricks. Number 4, mortar repairs, request is withdrawn. There is no plan to repair mortar. Number 5, we've got some general plan as to how to remove remaining peeling paint. Number 6, the reply was that there's no need to measure the moisture content of the brick in the wall. That's unacceptable. Number 7, we now have details on the primer and the paint to be used. It's good stuff. Approvable stuff. Let's walk through the show and tell a little bit more on the following slides, though. So here I have a picture of the wall. These pictures that you're about to see were all taken on Monday the 16th, sometime after the pressure washing was done. I need to point out that there's a parge coat on the lower portion of the wall. A parge coat, somebody's gone and put concrete or cement on the lower, 3 feet, 2.5 feet of the wall. And that was done a long time ago, so, can't say much about whether that was a good idea at the time. Probably was not. What I want to point out, though, is that the first row of brick immediately above the level of the parge coat, you'll see here and in later photos that that brick is in the worst condition. And there's a reason for that. It's what you would expect if we can put on our forensic hats here. When that parge coat was put on, it effectively created a vapor barrier or a moisture barrier. So as moisture builds up within the brick, both from inside the building and from water being absorbed at the bottom of this wall, that moisture at some point looks for an escape route from the brick. You can think of the brick like a sponge. It gets wet and now it wants to dry out. That moisture can't escape through the parge coat, so it rises through the wall. And it finally reaches a level where it can get out. But once it's at that level, of course, that moisture content is relatively high in the brick. So in the freeze-thaw cycle, it freezes. And in freezing and thawing, it's causing that brick to spall, or basically to explode and blast out the surface of the brick. This brick is a clay brick. The outside of the brick, when it was new, was, a solid vitreous surface. So you can kind of think of these bricks like a glass aquarium, for your fish. And when that glass is intact, that's all good. But once that glass surface is gone, what you have inside is basically a loose, densely packed clay dirt. It's not vitreous, it's not hard. You can brush your finger on it and it disintegrates. So as that moisture has come up to get out from behind that parge coat, it's hit that first row of brick, maybe the second row of brick, and it's been blasting its way out, like Rambo out of a bad movie. So let's look at the next couple slides here. So for example, at the top left, you see a photo. I show you the parge coat. Nothing new there, but then a little bit of detail. As soon as we get above the parge coat, the brick is bad. And again, getting into the time machine, wearing the forensics hat, you can bet that that brick was not bad when that parge coat was put on there. The parge coat has caused the brick to become bad. On the bottom right, below the parge coat, where that's failed, of course, you see probably why the parge coat was put on. The brick is in bad shape. It's disintegrating. It's going away. And then again, immediately above where the parge coat is, you start to see bricks that have exploded. They're disappearing. So, what does all that mean? Well, let's go to the next slide. A couple detailed views. These are views above the parge coat. You can see the view on the left. The bricks in the upper portion of the photo are, relatively intact. The vitreous exterior is probably largely still there. If you look at the bottom of the photo on the left, you see that concave nature of the bricks where we're into the densely packed clay material that has lost integrity. That stuff is not doing its job as it was intended anymore. Photo on the right, just a random spot on the wall to show you there's quite a bit of remaining paint in areas above the parge coat. It is peeling. So if we look at the next set of photos, this is just kind of a general condition. Again, this is after it was pressure washed. So on the left, there's a lot of areas where it's clear that the paint is in failure mode. It's really not suitable to accept primer and new paint until it's been scraped. Photo in the center, this is just one spot of the parge coat. The parge coat could generally be said to be in failure mode as well. Photograph on the right, another area of paint, just general sense of things. It's in spots it's stuck to the brick pretty well, in other spots not so good. Here's a spot where it needs to be scraped prior to primer and paint. Moving ahead a slide. Wisconsin Historical Society has very good advice/requirements for these situations. And this information was provided to the applicant early on. Was it August 10th, I think? We've got the timeline. Anyway, just want to read to you here. Got to use a highly vapor permeable paint. Okay, that's good. Damage can be caused by sandblasting and high pressure washing. Okay, good to know. So let's get into the weeds a little bit more on the Shippo requirements on the next slide. Step one, you got to scrape or remove the paint. The current plan in hand is to scrape and remove the paint in accordance with this instruction. I'm good with it. Step two, clean the surface to be painted. Okay, I'm good with what is currently proposed, but we need to revisit this. It says, do not use high pressure washing to clean a masonry surface. This can damage the surface. It's also a major cause of catastrophic paint failure. The high pressure washing will drive so much moisture deep into the masonry that it could take months to dry enough for painting. That's important because although we'll be using a vapor permeable primer and paint, if the moisture content in the brick is already high, we'll be trapping that moisture in the wall, and come this winter, that will have a freeze-thaw cycle, and it will accelerate the deterioration of the historic brick wall. Step three, repair damaged components. I note it says repair any failing mortar with mortar that's softer than the brick. You should replace any rotted or cracked brick. There's clearly need to repair the wall as well. Step number four, check the moisture content. Paint will not adhere to any masonry surface with a moisture content that exceeds 15%. Good to know. You can purchase a masonry grade moisture meter at masonry supply stores. Okay, great. That could be done. Next slide. So on the recommendation side of things, the cinder block wall at 235 North Broadway, I recommend you approve whatever mural or paint job is proposed. No problem. Moving on to the wall at 412 Dausman. So the latest correspondence that I've seen proposes that any painting that is to be done is only done on areas of brick that are not deteriorated. I can't comment on the feasibility or desirability of avoiding areas that are deteriorated. And I haven't evaluated that. Next slide. So I've shown you that Shippo states that high pressure washing can drive a lot of moisture into the wall. It could take months for it to dry out. If we lock it in there with new primer and paint, regardless of vapor permeability, I think there's a very good chance that we will see damage to that wall accelerated, same sort of damage that we see as a result of the parge coat that was applied many years ago. The applicant has not provided the information yet requested. In the absence of that information, I have to suggest to you that doing nothing, not painting, is better than doing something that is bad. That's painting. With that in mind, I recommend denial of the request to paint the mural, or direction to LC staff to monitor and approve of, and repairs, I leave that question mark to you, and the work that needs to be done, including measuring the moisture content, ensuring that it's dry enough to accept the primer and paint, and potentially avoiding areas of deterioration, depending on how you feel about repairs. I don't know. This is what I've got. It's not an ideal recommendation to be delivering to you, but I have little else to add at this point.
Thank you, Jason. Alderman Stoyer.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Jason, thank you for that. That was very well in depth and learned a lot from that. I have a few questions. Let's just say these folks decided to go ahead and do it, even if we denied it. There would be some retribution of some sort. What would the penalty be if they went ahead with it, if we decided not to go with it? Because I have a feeling that they might think that, well, what did we do wrong? We just sandblasted, or not sandblasted. We just cleaned it. And part of me would like to see something on our website where they would actually talk about, different techniques that people should use when they're cleaning their building, historic building, that type of thing. And I know that there's probably some things out there, but I think a lot of times there's folks that will work on something and they're not fully aware of the ramifications of doing what they do. So I guess I just wanted to know that, but I kind of concur with what Jason brought forward, unless somebody else can change my mind on that. So I'm good for now.
From the city's perspective, on our website, we do link to the WHS site that does have all of the proper maintenance, funding sources, pretty much everything that the state offers. We have linked through our city's webpage. As far as the citation is concerned, I am very confident that our partners on Broadway are not going to go ahead if we don't tell them to. They've been really good partners in everything that we've done with them, so I can't imagine that they would just say, oh, we're going to do it anyway. However, for something like that, it would be the $50 a day citation until the surface is restored. So but I have very, very high confidence that they wouldn't go against us in this.
And to elaborate too, I don't think either Stephanie or I are in the business of enforcing state statutes, but the state statute is very clear that it's for pressure washing a wall on a designated historic building, there's a minimum fine of $100 for the person who operated the machine and $100 to the building owner, up to a maximum of $1,000 for each of those people as well. So.
You know who did it? Who cleaned the walls? Or was it the owners? Did they hire somebody to do it, or do you know?
I've received an email chain that's pretty clear on who did it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a moment.
I'd make a motion to open the floor.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there somebody that would like to speak on behalf of the property?
I would like to speak on behalf of the mural. I'm not the owner. I have no property investment in the property or anything of that nature. I was just approached with the opportunity to have a mural in a obviously scarred area of the near west side here. So we did have conversations with on Broadway and with the owner, and the building across the alley was very nicely prepared, and there's a very nice mural there right now. And so after the mural, the parties came together and said, hey, yeah, we'd like to have this mural in place. We used the exact same method that was used on this building as the other building across from us. So they're not being aware, not being somebody who owns the building or has to particularly look out for it, so to speak, from a legal standpoint. I'd pay the $100 and the additional $100, no problem. But everything was moving forward in goodwill. And it was actually something that I talked to the city about doing for quite some time and gained a lot of their support, and also with on Broadway. So the fact that they were going to do a mural that was better than I could was very favorable to us. And again, we used the exact same across the alley from us. And in regards to supplying pressure washer information, that was sent at 12:22 today to multiple people, including Jason. So there's a couple other people in that email. So hopefully somebody did receive that. Maybe Stephanie or Kent. Hopefully Allie caught that as well. I'm a little embarrassed that somebody would bring up saying that we would just do this anyway. I have a huge, I have an urban and regional planning degree. I used to work at the Brown County Planning Department. I've worked on Main Street, Sturgeon Bay Main Street program, De Pere Main Street program, and a couple of other programs. So I've also been on the On Broadway Design Committee in the past. So there's nothing malicious. Nobody's going to go out and paint it and put spray paint on it at 2 o'clock in the morning. We simply followed what we saw was standard procedure according to what happened just about a year and a half ago across the alley from us. Thank you for letting me speak up.
Thank you, Dave. If I could I'd just like to interject a little bit there. I am very concerned about the integrity of this that wall for the mural. I think the mural is a great idea, but given what Jason talked about, the things that were done in the distant past and using the pressure washer now, which I can absolutely accept as a mistake. Not everyone is aware that pressure washer is so bad for brick. I've just got a great deal of concern that anything going forward is going to ultimately have problems. And the man that just spoke, you mentioned the mural across the alley. That thing may be headed to problems if the moisture does the freeze-thaw spalling that Jason described. I think it's a great idea, but unfortunately, you guys are running into some pragmatic realities of the nature of brick.
I do have some pictures of the brick across the street or across the alley from us. And maybe there will be issues over time, but right now, the texture, adhesion, everything looks like it was justified yesterday. It's a fantastic job.
I'd like to add that alley mural was approved and completed in 2018 before the establishment of our code. So there would have been a review for that, just for everyone's information.
Well, I can share with you this from my personal experience with brick is that it can take years for it to appear, the spalling to appear. If any of the people in the building trade on the commission can elaborate on that. So while it may be only a year and a half, this is the type of thing that crops up and eventually destroys it years down the road, long before it would have been envisioned.
Yeah, I would like to clarify that we don't think that there was any malicious intent here. We just want to be very clear about the timeline, what's already been done to the wall, and why we are recommending denial for that mural.
Is this an inspection type matter if it gets to that point? Is inspection involved in this at all?
No, somebody would have to complain about the brick, but it doesn't really cause any health or safety violations at this point unless, you know, the tenant of the building felt that there was, or somebody walking by got hit by a brick falling or something like that. That's usually what would cause that type of inspection complaint to be filed, but we don't have anything yet. We just discovered this through the process of looking at the mural application.
Okay. Just real quick, I'd be interested to hear what On Broadway has to say about this, because they have other opportunities to have murals in the district, and I'm just wondering if they have any opinions on that. Like, I see Ally is there.
Yeah, so to kind of go off this conversation, I will speak to what Dave said. Like, we will absolutely not go and do anything to that wall without official approval. So that happened. The whole idea behind this wall is we are doing a mural festival. So we are actually putting up 11 murals in the district next weekend. And so this wall to the business owner or the property owner, and he had agreed to let us use that wall. It kind of goes along with what Dave was saying, that, you know, we thought it would be a good opportunity to clean up an area that could use some love in our district. And so that's why we kind of chose it. I'm learning through this whole experience and what is required with the historical district. And I apologize if we made any mistakes in that way. That was not what we were intending at all. We were just trying to move forward with this event and just get more art in our district. So we do have other walls that we are already obtained and artists are moving forward on. We just thought that this would be a great wall. And so we know that these are how the steps we need to go through to get approval for that wall. And I guess if it doesn't happen this year, maybe it's something that can happen in future years. But like I said, we meant no harm at all in any process of this. We just want to help that area. And we know that we've done a mural in that alley before. And so we thought it would be a good addition to do one on that wall. We love the vision for the mural and the artist's vision for it. So we thought it would just be a good opportunity to make a nice area in the Broadway district for people to be excited about.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I also wanted to add, I did say that we would moisturize test it as well in one of the emails. I am happy to go and buy a reader to move forward with that as well. So that might have been miscommunicated.
I heard, you know, loud and clear, no malicious intent. I get that. And if it came across that way as part of this discussion, that wasn't the intent, I don't think, of the discussion. But I guess the only question I have is there, are there other walls that are being considered for this that are subject to the same type of criteria?
No, so every other wall is outside of a historic district, besides that utility wall, which was also proposed in this.
Yep.
Everything else is outside and isn't a concern, I guess.
Okay, great.
Is there actually a contractor that's hired to do the prep work before the artists paint the mural?
No, so what I had sent Jason, because originally we didn't realize that there'd be so much restoration that needed to happen to this wall, which was, I guess, we've talked to the property owner, and if that is something that he wanted to do at this time, it doesn't sound like that is a feasible option for him, just based off of all the COVID things and the rental properties and all this stuff that's been happening to him. It's kind of out of the cards for this year. Our intent on Broadway was to put a mural on it, not realizing all of the brick damage that had happened to that wall. So we were prepared to do anything that was needed to get it ready for painting, such as scraping the paint off with some putty knives and priming it with the appropriate primer and using the appropriate paints. So I guess moving forward, after we learned about the brick repair that may have need to be done, we had proposed putting the mural on brick that is still sustainable versus on any damaged brick as an option.
The problem with moving forward that way is that with the recent pressure washing, there's the water in the brick, and as cases for that to clear. The wall does look terrible right now, and it's admirable to place a mural there. But if a mural is placed there now and the brick continues to spall and fail as expected, we're just kicking the problem forward several years, a decade or whatever. And I think that would be irresponsible to proceed in the very near future with a mural right now.
My thought, before any mural went on that wall, that you really do an evaluation of, a complete evaluation, in-depth evaluation of the condition of that wall.
I think Jason probably did a very good job giving you a rundown of it. I'm from a contractor family. I worked with Pat Drury that was just on beforehand or is going to be on after, whatnot. What this really is putting a stick on a pig. It's not going to get repaired. It's repaired next year. And there's crime here. There's people having problems walking through that alley at night. I've even offered to fund putting some commercial string lights across, like a lot of Main Street programs are doing these days to lighten it up. There isn't a single light in there. I found stolen property. I called the police department several times. So what we have is a bad wall that needs to be replaced. And, either you can put a mural on it or you don't. There's nothing to save on it. Just someday it's going to have to be replaced. There is a definite line, though, of improved brick and brick that's decayed. And it's a very clear line. And there's plenty of room to work on above that line. But again, it's just going to be a underutilized area if we don't do something with it. My business being right here and having to be a semi-police officer, I'd love to see something happen, even if it's for short term. But the landlord has no intention of fixing that building unless a civil suit is brought up against him.
So lipstick on a pig probably seems accurate. I guess my concern here is that the pig is allergic to the lipstick, and you don't want a dead pig here.
So it's actually in an ICU unit on oxygen and plasma right now.
On life support. On life support.
I think part of the attitude is that some people would like to see anything go on there because it doesn't look that good now. But like Dave mentioned, the problems will occur in the future. So. And the fact is that now we're a landmarks commission, we have a little more say on this than we did before. It was just all advisory. So I'm just wondering about other murals that have been done throughout the city. If we're having issues, or has anybody seen any issues with those coming apart, so to speak? So I'm not, I think the whole idea of art on walls and stuff is great. I think, I went to Algoma this weekend and, they've got murals all over the place. So it can be done. But I'm just wondering how much in-depth study was done by whoever did it to make sure that everything was good before they did it. So anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah, it's worth noting that all the buildings on the street have had huge amounts of outdoor signs just painted directly to the wall, the size of semi-trailers. Even Glass Nickel Pizza right here, and they just refreshed one of theirs not too long ago also. It's probably one of the oldest forms of advertising out there.
I think part of the issue is just the face of the brick has gone, and it's not a good solid surface on which to put a mural. And I kind of euthanize the pig if we approve this mural.
I agree.
Yeah, 11 minutes.
Should we close the floor at all unless others want to speak?
Quick question, did you say that there was another potential location for this mural? Or is this mural just not gonna happen this year if this wall isn't chosen?
My worst user.
That particular mural will not move forward. It was kind of designed with a vision for that wall, and pertaining to the businesses around it. So we thought it was a good fit for that. So I have been in conversation with the artist. We might be able to find him a different wall in which to do some artwork on, but I don't see one moving forward.
And then what kind of agreement does On Broadway have with the property owner? You're essentially making an improvement to somebody else's property. Is there some sort of hold harmless that you've executed with the property owner so that by doing the mural, if the new paint traps additional moisture and the wall deteriorates further, is the property owner going to come back to On Broadway with some sort of accusation of liability?
We created agreements with the property owners, which they have all signed for this event. We put on there a 1-year agreement at least of having this mural, and then they could choose to paint over it or take it down if they chose to. But that, I guess, long-term investment wasn't particularly discussed. But I also think that this wall is different than most as well. Some are just basic cinder block walls as well. It's different.
How old is the building? Can anybody tell me?
Yeah, I could tell you. I can't tell you off the top of my head, though.
I'll look it up.
1930, I think it was.
1929.
Thanks.
Thank
Close.
All right.
I'll take it as a win. Yay.
Close enough.
You guys got me thinking about moving out because the place is going to implode on me.
Well, and it was talked about before about, fines and this and that. I don't think this commission is looking for that. I know I'm not. I'm sitting on city council and I think it was just a little bit of an oversight, but, there might be some areas where you could pressure wash and it might not do as much damage. But the fact is, these are 90-year-old bricks and you could, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. So.
Yeah, we couldn't get the paint off of that brick if our life depended on it. We can peel it off, but that pressure washer just took off the first 3 or 4 layers of paint, and we didn't pressure wash any of the sensitive areas.
Did you see any brick coming out at all, or just the paint?
No, it's layer upon layer upon layer. It's not chipped. It's not brittle. It literally is pliable, and you could peel off like 4 inches at a time, but pressure washer does not.
But I think what Jason brought up was the fact, even though it looks okay, like nothing was done, some of the moisture got into the brick probably, and you might not see that for years. So that's kind of an elephant in the room, so to speak.
Like I said, we are happy to test any areas and any bricks with a moisturizer reader. I will happily go buy one tomorrow.
I mean, I think if the wall isn't painted, it'll naturally rebalance over time. Any water that's into it now, you got a couple of months before the freeze-thaw cycle by that point. But the problem is if you seal it now with a paint, you've sealed that moisture in. And that's going to be where the issue comes in. It's not, you're not going to see it, but it will happen.
I was going to ask Dave, if you do the mural, the mural is done, you know, some people say, well, this is for Mr. Gagnon, next year somebody might do another mural. You could paint over it. Is it one of those things where if you do another mural, if you had another mural there, would you clean that up first and then put another mural on, or just paint over the last one? If you in a perfect world, I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much there.
I think that's a question for the artist because he has more, you know, he's been doing this for a very long time, so he has more experience with that.
Okay.
Personally, if money wasn't an issue and if I owned the place, you know, I'd do the repairs and I'd wait a year, but that's not going to be happening. And Lord just said, trust you.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is, yeah, Jason, this is very complicated. Any of the commissioners have any comments or intentions to make a motion on this?
I'm willing to make a motion right now unless there's discussion. I'll make a motion that this be denied, that in the future, that these folks demonstrate to staff or this commission that repairs have been suitably performed.
I'll second.
Can I just clarify that you're only denying 412 Dausman, not the North Broadway wall?
Absolutely right. This is only referring to Dausman.
Is this a double motion, or do we okay
all be
one
the
and then
same.
do the other?
It could all be the same.
Okay. So David, do you want to say it that way?
I'll amend my my motion to approve the cinder block off of Broadway and the Dausman, as I stated before.
Second.
Further discussion on that motion before we vote? I'll just throw it out there that I think this is quite honestly, a horrible situation. We've got a group that's intending to do a wonderful improvement to the historic district. There's art involved, which is always a good addition to our city. And it sounds like we've got a property owner that doesn't care about keeping their building in a satisfactory condition. If we would approve this mural, it's not going to help the condition of the building. And as somebody kind of referred to, we'd be kicking this can down the road, and 5 or 10 years from now, the wall will continue to deteriorate. And at that point, this building owner, who clearly cares nothing about his building, is going to come back and want to demolish it because the wall is too far deteriorated to save. So I think that this is a fantastic program and a fantastic effort, but we don't have the participation of the building owner, who clearly doesn't care about the value of this value to the citizens in the Broadway district and so on and so forth. So it's a horrible situation the commission's being put in because we're going to deny the application of this new mural and this fantastic looking art project because we've got a deadbeat landlord. And so I just am really, really upset that, you know, art can't proceed because somebody won't take care of their building. And that's kind of all I have to say about that.
If the commission so desires, we could investigate any potential issue here of demolition by neglect.
Any other discussion?
No?
Hearing none, I guess I'll call for a roll call vote on the motion. Again, this would be to deny 412 Dausman, but approve 235 North Broadway. Alderman Steuer?
Aye.
Ian?
Yep, I support that motion.
Susan?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
I will also vote unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item F, staff level certificate of appropriateness applications.
Staff received 2 staff level COA applications this past month. The first was for a shed, pretty big shed, but a shed nonetheless. And per local ordinance, staff can approve of, quote, unattached, non-visible accessory structures. That's not to say that it's invisible, but just not visible from a public right-of-way. So at 735 South Adams, you see a picture of the house, you see a little tiny, tiny map of where that's located. It's really close to the next COA we'll be discussing. And on the right is a site plan. It's a fairly hefty shed in the southeast corner of the lot, but not visible from any public right-of-way. So we've approved that. I also have to draw your attention to the tiny little car in the illustration there too. How sweet is that?
I saw that.
Pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Jason, for our information, can you explain the approval process for an accessory structure? Is there a size that it has to get approved, or can a property owner just go and buy a prefabricated garden shed from one of the home improvement stores?
So
Just get approved? What guidelines are there on these things?
in this case, the COA was issued on the contingency or on the condition that the necessary building permits were also secured, which triggers a review of setbacks and building heights and that sort of thing. So to your question about can I go to Home Depot and buy a shed and throw it on my lot? The answer is yes. Yes, you can, provided that you've got all the necessary setbacks and, you know, the heights aren't violated. From a preservation perspective, we look at those as kind of temporary, ephemeral structures. They come and they go, much like a fence or paint color or something like that. This particular shed, I'll emphasize that for air quotes, looks like a pretty permanent structure, but the way the ordinance is written, it appears to be an unattached, non-visible accessory structure, because it's not a garage. They've got a garage, and it's not visible, and it is an accessory structure, and so we approve that at staff level, provided that they satisfy the conditions of whatever building permits and setbacks are also required.
Okay, thank you.
Next one, same neighborhood, just around the corner on Law Street. They want a new roof. They submitted an example of the asphalt shingle that they'll be replacing the current asphalt shingle with. And if they weren't labeled, I honestly wouldn't have known one from the other. So that's a wash. In this case, though, our approval noted that it's eligible for state homeowner tax credits of 25%. We encourage them to take advantage of that state tax credit program. And we note that the roof, if it doesn't meet the minimum expense requirements of $10,000, can be bundled with something else like a furnace or plumbing or electrical or exterior paint where it not vinyl, that sort of thing. So, yes, new roof. Those were the only 2 staff level COAs this month.
Okay,
Jason,
thank you.
if I could interject, I believe the homeowner in that scenario will need to get the approval from the state for that before they make those improvements.
Yes,
If they don't
Right,
do that,
yeah.
they will not be eligible for that 25%.
our approval letters are very clear in stating that all tax credit work has to be approved by the State Historic Preservation Office prior to any work commencing.
Perfect.
You know, we're trying to do our little education outreach to say, you know, statistically, if there's, say, 300 houses in Astor and a roof lasts 30 years, that means there's 10 new roofs per year
Yep.
on average. So you're looking at, you know, a new roof costs at least $10,000. That's a lot of money that we'd like to keep back in the community. And currently, I think a lot of it goes out the window, so.
Yep. No, that's good. I guess I just wanted to add to that, you know, in the last couple of months here, we've had organizations or buildings that are covered by, like Downtown Green Bay Inc. and the Bellin Building, as well as now the building on Broadway and the On Broadway group, how much outreach has been done to those organizations about the requirements of the Landmarks Commission, because they are both have historic districts within their boundaries, I would say.
Yes, not to be too personable for you, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. My wife yells at me all the time, why am I not doing enough to educate people about these things? And, the simple fact there is that our attention has been focused elsewhere, like on the intensive level survey.
Understood.
Yeah, we did invite, they were invited to all of our meetings concerning like the code update, that kind of stuff. I do work with Alder Johnson a lot, who runs on Broadway, and he contacts me constantly about the historic preservation codes. So they're pretty familiar, though I do think, like echoing Jason, we could certainly do more outreach. If we had enough money, we'd be doing like a spring event every year, inviting people to learn more about it. But in substitute of that, it'll probably just be a letter every year like we've been trying to do, so.
Yeah, it would be great to do a brief presentation and include some of these examples so that it's real and it's tangible for those organizations to see. That's my only comment.
Did my wife call you?
She did not.
I think it would be a wonderful idea if a couple of us would potentially have the opportunity to meet with Alder Johnson because of his representation through On Broadway, and just have maybe not necessarily a formal presentation, but just a question and answer conversation, because we have obviously had a lot of properties in the district come before this commission. Some of them have been very simple as far as our approvals. Some of them have been pretty easy with denials too. And I don't think tonight's action is one that anybody feels really good about. And I think that it might behoove us as a commission to do a little bit of outreach, especially with the dual nature of Mr. Johnson's status of both representing On Broadway and being an alderperson for the city. Because he was not, I don't think, on the city council when this commission was essentially formed 2 years ago. So I would feel good about participating in that outreach effort if we can put that together.
So a sneak peek of things to come. There's a new owner, I understand, of 402 Dausman.
There's some people talking in the background that.
I just muted Susan, I think it was her phone.
So 402 Dausman has, I think, a new owner, and they reached out to our economic development group, which then puts them in touch with me, because of course the question is, where can we get funding and what's available for the owner of a historic building? So in that sense, sometimes the fish jump in the boat, and there we can tell them, oh, that's wonderful. There's tax credits, 20% state, 20% federal for a commercial building. There's the city's facade grants program. There's the city's revolving preservation loan fund program. Let us help you make best use of all these resources so that you can do a successful rehabilitation or adaptive use project with your designated historic building. That's, the best case scenario, frankly, from my perspective, is when they jump into the boat like that. It's harder to anticipate where that might happen, where they're not reaching out for assistance or information.
Chair, I was going to ask, could we, many times people ask questions on this type of thing, and, if the commission had materials, like a PowerPoint presentation and or some materials that could be utilized like on Broadway, they have so many functions down there. You could just have an easel with a couple of things down there. You could just, be a little more visible. And, just
Sorry, Susan, I'm going to keep muting you because there's a lot of feedback from your background.
So yes, lots of opportunity.
So anyway, I just think it's that way. If you had some poster boards, some easels, some basic stuff about the commission, things that, could be utilized at events like farmers markets and different things like that. I think, and I just talked to Alder Johnson not too long ago, and we had council last night. I think there's a certain feeling, even though we represent the city, that like, oh boy, the city's telling us about this and that, but we have to worry about, what the state has to do with this as well. So we made a tough decision tonight, but I think a lot of people will look at that at face value and say, well, the city, what did they do? They refused it again. But there's a lot more to it, that everybody needs to know. So, and I tell that to some people, it's a little more complex than just yes or no. So anyway, I think it would be nice if we had some, materials and things like that for future reference. I'm also going to be going on a historic walking tour with Will Peters of the city for the Fort Howard neighborhood. And Jason, I think you might have been with me last time. We did that a couple of years ago. So we're planning on doing that again. So I think if commission members would like to get involved that way, we could, go on some walks and things on that order. So we're looking at probably late September, maybe in October as well. So when I find out more about that, I'll let you know.
Okay. I'd be interested in that.
Would love to have you, Susan.
Thank you. I'm in a quieter spot now.
Is it a birthday party? You got a birthday party going on? No.
Jason, were there any other applications, or are we on to raise and repair orders?
No raise and repair orders. Staff update, though, we did, of course, receive the Legacy Phase 1 report. I think that's been shared with you?
No, I just uploaded it, so I'm gonna put it onto our website and then send a link to you all, because it is a pretty large document. So you should be getting that hopefully tomorrow, if it uploads correctly. Because we have completed Phase 1, we're submitting for a reimbursement, and then we start Phase 2 and 3 and 4 in September.
Sounds good.
I thought that the work that I saw after the last presentation looked really good, and there were several buildings that I'm glad they identified as buildings to list on the registry.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up an interesting question for the commission, too. They are not on the National Register, but they are National Register eligible. You have the prerogative to locally designate them, even if they don't get on the National Register. Maybe you want to talk about that at some point, like how that would happen, or why would you want to do that?
How much paperwork needs to be done for that?
Well, to put it on the local register, I'm struggling to remember. I think it's just you guys recommend to council, or you guys take action and do it.
There's an application, you guys would have to take the action to apply on behalf of the property owner. They get notified. That recommendation does go to city council, and I'm going to assume they're gonna take the owner's perspective into consideration quite heavily, even though for us, it's protecting the buildings, but there's another side of that. So we would have to make that application. Someone has to apply to me to review it. So I think that would be on behalf of the Landmarks Commission, somebody would need to apply.
And I just, to pick two examples, the cement carrier ST Crapo, I would suggest you not approach that. It's in the water. I don't think city jurisdiction extends to it. But the railroad swing bridge of 1895 in the middle of the river, the railroad's never going to come to you and say, please give me laws to follow. So
No.
I don't know how important that bridge is to the character of Green Bay. You all would be more well suited to tell me how important that is.
For several of those buildings, we do have the original plans. We did those buildings. So if you need documentation on them, we have it.
Perfect. Love to hear that.
Thank you, Ian. Any other staff update items?
No, I think that's it.
Next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 15th. I do not think I will be able to attend that, just so we can plan accordingly to make sure that we have a quorum.
I'll be in Utah at that time. I'll be gone too.
Okay, maybe we can discuss a different date then. I would like to get the election of officers off of our agenda as soon as possible, so I'll set out a couple meeting alternative dates if that doesn't work out for everyone.
I will be out of town that day, could try and join remotely, but I will be out of the state.
All right, we'll reschedule. We won't do the 15th then. That already sounds like a mess. So we'll figure out a different time.
Okay, I will probably be at this point gone the last week of September, so
Okay,
just, you know.
good to know.
Okay. Hearing nothing else, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
And
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.